How long have you been wearing that?
I've been wearing it since Sunday at 10 a.m.
How does it smell?
It smells like Leinenkugel, Patron. There's a little cinnamon fireball, and I think some whiskey.
Does it smell like shame and disgust based on how that game went? I quit watching. What happened? Oh.
Uh, yeah. Thanks, Jim.
Hey, welcome back from Africa.
Hey, welcome everyone. I've got a special guest this week, Jim Jenks.
Ooh,
Welcome,
neat.
Jim.
It's great to be back.
Thanks for helping out.
Well, I think every league owner needs to pitch in once in a while, and I've admired the work that you've done over the past 4 or 5 weeks. We had the Ronning Christmas special. We had David Lynch directed art show. We had the show from Africa.
Yeah, that's right.
And we had the golf program. Who was that on the golf show?
Tremaine.
Is he in the league?
He comes and goes. We've got a lot to talk about this week. Have you seen Zach's new logo?
I thought it was Miley Cyrus.
I've seen Zach wear that before. So
That special closet. Okay.
Yeah, drop door behind a bookshelf. And
yeah, the one that's in a storage unit that Heidi doesn't know about.
Yeah.
You look like you have notes there.
I have notes. Don't you have some notes?
Mm-mm. I did.
Oh,
I threw them away after the last show because I thought we were done.
This is hard. This is really hard. Forget rehearsals.
No, right.
Rehearsing is overrated.
Pros don't need to rehearse.
No. Let's talk about the transaction count.
Great. Let's do that.
Who do you think has the least number of transactions?
I'm going to say I'm going to say Chris. And I'm only saying Chris because it's going to tie into a transaction that he didn't make this past weekend. That is mind-blowing.
He has a lack of transactions, and that makes sense for this past week when he could have used one of his transactions and maybe some different outcome. Anyway, you're right. He only has 8.
He loves his team.
He's loyal. You know who else is loyal? Tremaine. Only 10.
Wow. And he's 7-2 with 10 transactions.
I don't think we know this, Tremaine. Something changed.
It's amazing.
Zach, with 11, makes sense. He's got a lot on his plate right now with miles and then marathons. He doesn't have a lot of time for fantasy right now.
Right.
Me, 12.
Great work. 6-3, 12 transactions. So there's 2 teams that low transaction counts have worked for, and 2 teams that not so much.
I wish I would have had one less. I should never have felt the pressure to fill a bye week player. I cut Giovanni Bernard for Travis Henry on Tennessee. Same result. He got 0. Might as well have a bye player in there. Then Jay picked up Giovanni Bernard on his bye week. So he stole him. I'm all about playing bye week players.
Jay is cagey. He's a hawk on the waiver wire.
And then there's the rest of the teams right in the middle.
Not enough.
Let's just go down to the bottom. Beaver Fetish has 21. You know why? He likes variety. He likes to experiment. A lot of people passing through his house.
Right, exactly. I don't think that's enough, though. I think that if you've got 30 waiver wire transactions reserved, damn it, you use all 30.
Well, funny you said. You're almost there because you are
really
number 1 transaction user. 27. You only got 3 to go.
I thought it was mandatory that we had to use all 30. Yeah, so I got 3 left to get through the last 4 weeks of the regular season.
Yeah.
Not a problem. If I need more,
just let me know.
All right. Playoff picture. We got to talk about this. Here's where we're at. We got 4 weeks left to go in the season. We have 4 teams that are, as it stands right now, pretty much a lock. We got 2 teams at 5-4 that it's looking pretty good. We got 3 teams whose fortunes have plummeted a little bit this season, especially over the last few weeks, that are unlikely right now to make the playoffs. Never say never, but, And then we got 3 teams that are at 4-5 that are locked in a struggle for the last 2 playoff spots. Those teams are the Bear, Beaver, Fetish, Carlos Danger, Toenails. That we are the Swamp Donkeys and the Blue Jean Committee. Next week, every week is critical. Next week, we have the Toenail Fetishes going up against who?
Me.
Going up against you. They have 4 players on a bye.
Ooh.
It's going to be a tough, tough week for the fetishists. The Toenails continuing on. Then they play the Minister of Defense. Then they play Atomic Rooster, and then they finish up against CGG's Nuisance. 2 winnable games, 2 tough games.
I feel like he's got a good chance of making the playoffs.
The next team, the Donkeys. He's playing Atomic Rooster, then he plays CGG Nuisance, then he's got Brady's Revenge, and then he's got the Chunch Pack. He's got 1 winnable game-ish versus 3 tough games.
It doesn't look good for the Swamp Dogs. Yeah.
Now, the Swamp Dogs next week have 3 players on a bye, then 2 the following week. They've got the tied for the most of bye week players coming up over the next 2 critical weeks. Then we go to the Blue Jean Committee. Next week against the Minister of Defense, then Atomic Rooster, then CGG's Nuisance, and then finishing up against Brady's Revenge. 2 winnable-ish games versus 2 competitive games.
I think you got a shot. I think you can do it.
I got a middling shot. Swamp Donkeys have a tough road. If the Toenails can pull out a victory against you next week, I think they're looking good too. He is defending his title, the Heart of a Champion. It's incredible to see. He's the one that should be given the whiteboard primer on fantasy football, not the Minister of Defense. Let's circle back to the Minister of Defense, lack of transactions, playoff picture scenario. Take a look at last week's game, Swamp Donkeys versus Minister of Defense.
All right.
So the Swamp Donkeys were faced with a difficult bye week situation where he had a running back wide receiver slot open, and he elected not to waive A.J. Green. He also had Lamar Miller, but, you don't want to waive those guys. And then if you're him, you take a look at your opponent, and you're thinking, maybe I can roll the dice and get away with sitting a running back wide receiver against my opponent, who it turns out is doing the same thing.
He thinks he can roll the dice.
Going into last week, he's 3-5. You got to make a run.
He's desperate,
it's
though.
all hands on deck.
He's coasting. He thinks he's coasting the rest of the way.
Coasting. The 2 players that he could have waived were Jeremy Hill and LeGarrette Blount. He lost by 6 points. 5.5 points. This is must win. And your opponent is sitting 2 of his best players. You've got an open slot there. This is opportunity to make up a game here, to thrust yourself into the playoff thing. Sure, you got to sacrifice a guy, but if you don't, you only got a month left to go. And you only needed, as it turns out, 6 points. You can pick up a guy off the waiver wire. Turns out there were quite a few running backs that supplied at least 6 points.
How about one of his favorite players in the past?
T.Y. Eldon, Dwan Harris, 49er starter. So what do you think, Glenn? You're a fantasy football guru. What would you have done?
If you're going to want the classics, the original teams to be in the playoff hunt and make it a feel-good story this year, you've got to try a little harder.
Wouldn't you rather go for it and fail than be guided by fear and fail? You got 30 transactions, use them.
What's worse, Gary Anderson missing the field goal, there's Steve Bartman interfering with the catch, or the Buckner play?
Probably the Tom Brady tuck rule. That was a fumble. That wasn't called a fumble. It's probably
that wasn't part of the options.
No? Okay.
I only gave 3 options, 3 choices.
The Buckner between the legs miscue.
No.
You're going Gary Anderson.
What happened prior to the Buckner having gone a wild pitch that tied the game? That was game 6. They had a game 7.
That's true. You can't feel sorry for the Red Sox fans. I feel sorry for Tremaine because he's a diehard, Red Sox fan.
And Cubs fan.
And Rockies fan?
And Rockies. And Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks.
Diehard.
I think I've seen him in a Cardinal hat.
They're up 3-0. It's the 8th inning. There's 1 out. The guy interferes with the ball. That would make it 2 outs. And sure, it's still 1 out. Florida scores 8 runs. There's 1 more game. No. How about Gary Anderson? Okay, there's 1 game. He kicks the field goal. A couple minutes left. You kind of got it. They don't go up by 10. They're still up by 7. And Atlanta goes down, scores, ties the game. Time runs out. Overtime. Lose the toss. They go down. Kick a field. Game over.
I think that Falcon team is among the worst Super Bowl teams to make the Super Bowl ever. Chris Miller, I believe, was the quarterback. Jamal Anderson.
Yeah. One season.
It looks more like Louis the 14th.
It's kind of Mozart-like.
It is kind of Mozart. Does it have a ponytail?
I didn't get to dress up. I missed Halloween. I didn't get back till I flew in on the 1st.
Do we have anything else?
We don't have anything else. That's it.
All right.
Enough.
Big week coming up. Rolling into the last 4 games of the regular season. Huge playoff implications coming up. Good luck to everyone.
Good luck, everybody, especially Chris. Or now, wait, not this week. Or does he play you? I'm pretty sure it was recording, but I think I may have tapped it. I'm gonna freak out. I will freak out.
This is good stuff.
There we go.
How much did we lost most of it? Ah, my God. Hey, is that your African wristband?
You see that?
Does that ward off the dengue fever, diarrhea?
It's made by the Maasai tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of their pieces.
And the Maasai tribe are based at the Nairobi airport in the gift shop.
Mm-hmm.